However, the late 60s and early 70s were a time of change for Volkswagen. For instance, the Beetle was given a new, more modern headlight setup, as well as new tail lights, and eventually a shorter front hood, giving the Volkswagen a much squatter look. But despite these cosmetic changes in the early 70s, the Volkswagen Beetle beat the Ford Model T as the most produced car ever made. But this proved to be bittersweet. By then, automotive technology had caught up with the Beetle's old design. Water-cooled engine designs were getting more reliable, more powerful, and less expensive every day. Soon, owning a Volkswagen Beetle became more of a novelty than a need. People were buying more modernly designed compact cars. In order to stay alive and competitive, Volkswagen had to introduce the Golf as their new flagship automobile. The Golf was basically a water-cooled front-engined, front-wheel drive compact that was meant to be the Beetle's replacement. Yet while the Golf was a success, it never met the high production numbers as the Beetle. As the 70s wore on with falling customer demand, Volkswagen began replacing the Beetle with newer models. Various Volkswagen factories around Germany began shutting down production of the Beetle. Then in 1979, the final German-made Volkswagen Beetle rolled off the assembly line. While in its home country the Beetle was no longer being produced, there were other places around the world where production continued. In South America! In Brazil, production of the Beetle continued until 1986. Production continued again in 1993, only to be discontinued permanently in 1996. Mexico, however, continually produced Beetles all the way into the 21st century. Mexico had long embraced the Volkswagen Beetle, and even went as far as to use them as taxi cabs. In fact, if you look down a street in Mexico City, you could see that over half of the cars were Beetles. However, under the changing times and ever stricter automotive legislations, the Beetle just sort of looked like an antique. Then, in 2003, the final Volkswagen Beetle, number 21,529,464, rolled off the assembly line in Mexico. For the Beetle, Volkswagen, as well as the automotive world, it was the end of an era, where quality didn't know price, where simplicity could mean excellence, and where such a little car could be so big. After over 60 years and 21 million units, the Volkswagen Beetle finally came to the end of the road. But in the end, what kind of legacy did it leave behind? So, beyond its huge ironies, beyond its quirky advertisements, and beyond the records that it broke, what truly was the Volkswagen Beetle? Is it a piece of experimental Nazi propaganda gone horribly wrong? No. The Volkswagen Beetle is a car that rose high and far above its unhumble beginnings. It is a car that helped the war-torn nation back on its feet, that gave millions of people transportation where they couldn't get it before, and that defined an entire generation of flower children. In a sense, the Beetle is a car that went from being a symbol of dictatorial fascist totalitarianism to a symbol of freedom, a symbol of peace, and a symbol of love. So there you have it. The Volkswagen Beetle is not an evil car. In fact, it is one of the greatest in automotive history. But still, you never know.